as I said, the clergy rank quite high, actually 6th or 7th on the list of, 7th or 8th.
Uh-huh. That's amazing.
Well, it's a power position. I mean, you've got people are subjected to your lectures every Sunday, and you can tell people how to behave. And,
It's definitely a position of influence.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you're the mouthpiece for God, for heaven's sakes.
It's just crazy, and well, they rank quite high as psychopaths, people
right.
in positions.
Right. So any organization or any structure that has a power dynamic in it that they can take over and run, they'll go for it. And so they're going to be found in high places. Any competitive environment, survival of the fittest, stuff, all that, I think
It's all about control.
it's all about control.
Well, and they'll do anything to be in that position of control.
Right.
Wow.
They're trying like a moth to a flame. And, I would say if you'd rank the most powerful organizations to the least powerful organizations, up among the top, I don't know, so many organizations are going to be government organizations. I mean, the United States government, theoretically, I mean, if you believe that they're actually in control, it's the most powerful government on earth. I mean, and you would think that the most powerful person in that government would necessarily be a psychopath. If he wasn't a psychopath or she wasn't a psychopath would come along and take it from him.
I gotcha.
So you want to find psychopaths, you find a competitive environment, you find big stakes wins, you look for where the power is, where the money is, and that's where you'll find these entities.
Wow.
Right. So some people think that it's a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Psychopath is a diagnosed mental illness.
Right. I guess that's what I always thought.
Right. But it can't be treated or cured. They found that when you try to treat a psychopath, it makes them worse. Matter of fact, they did a study, and I think this was done in Vermont, where they had a treatment for psychopaths. And I don't know whether you know what the recidivity rate is. That's the number of prisoners that get back into the jail. So when the U.S. jails were interested in reforming people and, reducing the recidivity rate so there'd be less people in the jail, when they used to be interested in that, they'd work toward programs that would lower the recidivity rate, like programs that would give them an occupation or something, on the way out. They found that treating a psychopath raises the recidivity rate.
How could that be?
Well, I think they learned from their treatment that they're different and how they're different, and they use that to scam.
Oh.
It energizes them. They know more about themselves. I don't know.
Wow, that's crazy.
Also, there's another misconception as we're going over these misconceptions.
Okay.
And this is going to become more and more in the forefront because as psychopaths become more exposed, and of course they're in power positions, they're going to do things like make the position of a psychopath like really not that bad. He's a psychopath, but what a teddy bear, kind of thing.
Oh, like make it accepted?
Yeah, they do it all the time. I remember, I don't watch many movies, certainly not that many violent movies, but the ones I have seen, the heroes have a tendency to be psychopaths. Like I can remember, it might have been 8 years ago, I watched a movie starring Pierce Brosnan, where he was just a professional hitman.
Mm-hmm.
he killed for, well, he was a killer.
Mm-hmm.
And, but he was the hero of the movie, and I mean, you were sympathetic with him the whole time, and he was a psychopathic killer.
Yeah.
And I think it happens all the time.
It probably is often the hero of the.
Yeah, because they want psychopath, which is an incredible deviant that you're going to realize more and more as we get through this material. Yeah, it's not a it's so different from the way we're wired that it's a stretch for me to think that they're human. But they want it to be more and more okay to be a psychopath.
Oh.
So
yeah, I can see that they're going that direction. Right. Conditioning us to love the psychopathic star of the movie and sympathize with them and make it okay.
Right, and there's also been an attempt to make it like real important that we have psychopaths around. These are sick individuals. These aren't people who are just bent on getting ahead. As we go through this material I've gathered, they're just not like us.
Okay, so tell us why.
So they're labeling, they're painting them with the purple pill, which if you want to know more about the purple pill, you can go to a previous episode. Do you remember the number?
It might have been 106 or 105.
Yeah, 106 and 105. But it's becoming more of a purple pill. Yeah, well, they're psychopaths, but they're really not that bad. They're necessary. They might have the warrior gene, which is a real important part of the complex known as humanity. And this warrior, like shakes things up, and it's real important that you have this warrior gene in your evolution because it facilitates the evolution.
Oh, because only the strongest survive.
Only the strongest survive, and we have to come. Sometimes in our spiritual growth, we have to be at war, and there would be no war if there were no psychopaths and
warriors.
No warriors, and it's necessary for evolution. And in a way, I can buy that they might be necessary for our evolution because we really need to grapple with them. But in terms of a component of our evolution, it's a stretch.
Yeah.
So those are some misconceptions and things that I don't want you to continue to think about psychopaths.
Okay.
Because they're wrong ideas.
All right,
in my belief, they're wrong ideas. Because I'm looking at the psychopath from a whole different perspective, and I hope.
Okay, well, enlighten us so we can look at psychopaths from your perspective.
Okay, well, it's not just from my perspective. They've done a lot of research.
Well, I know there's been a lot of. I've been watching you gather.
And I've been doing a lot of research
for days.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have done some pretty amazing work on this topic.
And people are very interested, and it's really important that we identify the psychopath, and we watch him or her behave, because it really tells us what we are. It's a defining. Since we're so different than the psychopath, and the things about us that the psychopaths don't have are so wonderful that looking at the psychopath I think it's important for us to understand us.
It will help us to know our own humanity, won't it?
And also help us see the unfolding of what's going on in the planet. I don't know what you want to call it, conspiracy theory, the Armageddon, the apocalypse, whatever's going on, the collapse of Western civilization, whatever. By knowing and being able to identify the psychopaths, you can see some of the causes, and maybe we can engineer ourselves out of some of the consequences. Oh
boy, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think that understanding a psychopath is key. Not that the psychopath may be in control, but the psychopath does operate at an important level and the onion skin layering of what's actually going on. And key role. So anyway, let's get into some of these characteristics of a psychopath. Now, before we get into it, wait for it.
Wait for the shake.
Wait for the shake. Maybe everybody has one or two of these characteristics, and not all psychopaths have all of them. But the psychopaths have enough of them so that they stand out as being distinctly different from
someone who's not a psychopath.
Yeah. Okay, the first one is the lack of empathy. They don't have the ability to experience in themselves the feelings that other people are feeling. It's like they're stripped of the affective domain and they just have the cognitive, you know what I mean?
No, not exactly the same one.
Well, if I'm a child and I have a psychopathic brother and our puppy dies, I'll cry and cry and cry, and I'll go to great effort to put him in a little box, and then I'll be upset for days. My brother, the psychopath, will have no idea what I'm going through. He'll see my behaviors, he'll know that he's different, but he won't feel what I'm feeling. He can't identify, that's missing. So it's really a shame in a way, although they really...
So the psychopath himself doesn't feel what one might consider normal responses, normal emotional responses.
Yeah.
Psychopath doesn't have them.
No.
Nor he probably can't understand other people having them.
That's
There's
right.
no cognition at all of the experience of feeling emotions.
Yeah, there is cognition. They do look and see, and they know they're different because they're like between 1% and 4% of the population probably. So they see everybody else doing this, and they know they're different, and they know after they experience it a couple times that when this happens, I should act this way. So they don't stand out. So there is cognition, but there's no feeling, you know?
Oh, okay.
So therefore...
Yeah, like empathy basically is the ability to feel what other people are feeling.
Right.
Isn't that how you would define empathy?
I also think that what makes us human is this component, this feeling component, which is, I think, being gradually dumbed down, but we still really, we're a really feeling being.
Well, we're totally controlled by our feelings because when you watch a movie or something, it aims at creating an emotional response in you.
Right.
Yeah. So we're completely controlled by our feelings and emotions.
Yeah, probably crafted by a psychopath for nefarious aims.
Yeah.
Yeah, since they can't experience these emotions, what I consider to be probably the basic characteristics of being human is the appreciation and creation of art. Art and literature, they can cognitively understand what it must feel like or what the behavioral affectations of what it feels like. But there's no underlying...
It's funny you say that because I'm thinking, what they call the study of art and literature in colleges, humanities. I guess that's part of what makes us human.
And since the psychopaths don't have this, it's a stretch to think that they're truly human, also with their behavior.